Okay, back to where we were. Let's have a look at how you guys did in terms of the Aldi's organic growth strategy. In terms of pros, some of the key ones, obviously, the more outlets they have will mean more customers and sales. You're going for new markets effectively. In terms of benefits from economies of scale, always try and give real world examples, whether that's purchasing or otherwise, which could lead to a fall in average costs, leading to either more price competitiveness or greater market share. Greater profit margin. In terms of greater market share, potentially that leads to more market power. And obviously in terms of the type of growth, it's internal growth, it's been financed by retained profit, it's not putting the business at risk, and so is a more sensible rate. In terms of drawbacks, obviously there's a financial cost to this, and you guys should be thinking of the opportunity cost. There's a danger of them becoming too big and eventually suffering from diseconomies of scale. Also think of the standardization of products, maybe there's less consumer choice there. Also, in terms of greater market share, perhaps as a counterpoint to that, would there be more market power or ability to set price? It's a very competitive market, with profits falling at the moment, certainly for the big four supermarkets. It's also slower and more expensive growth than a takeover or merger unlikely to be. There are other issues in this particular case study. When Brexit comes along, will they be able to source products as cheaply as they currently do? Okay, so a number of contextualized points there. Try and get that into your answers. Okay, external growth. So this occurs when firms grow by joining with others. Okay, and it's important to understand this. Now, various types of growth need to be considered. Please make sure on page 52 you highlight the key ones. I'll start with horizontal growth, which is on the middle of your spider diagram on page 52, and this is where two businesses at the same stage of production would join. Okay, you've got airlines there. I want you guys to think of a brewery joining with another brewery. Horizontal, exactly the same type of business. Now, if you were to go forwards vertical, okay, in terms of a brewery, if you guys could write in the example, it would be a brewery buying out a chain of pubs. So forwards vertical means moving a step forward in the production stage, in this case closer to the customers, so buying a chain of pubs in which to sell your beer. At the top, backwards vertical, so this would be a brewery buying up maybe farms to source their hops or their barley. Okay, so it's joining with the previous stage of production, very importantly. In terms of conglomerate integration, two types really to consider there. Lateral integration, where you operate in different but related markets. So for example, Google and YouTube, both technology and online based companies, and diversification is where you would operate in a completely different market. So for example, I don't know, iTunes buying out a string of sandwich bars, completely different, but obviously benefits in terms of sales and so on. Let's have a look at these. So in terms of external growth, what are the key drivers of mergers and takeovers? Okay, so it could be you want to buy or join with another firm because of the technology there, the need to remain competitive and gain economies of scale. Access maybe to distribution networks of the other firm within the merger or takeover, and so on. Okay, so there's a few things that are important in this regard. Now, I can't stress this enough. Okay, as we go through this, you can see an example, Microsoft and a deal with Nokia in this instance. Okay, in terms of horizontal integration, and you've got examples of these on page 53. you guys must have up-to-date examples that you can bring into an exam question. So in terms of the ones here, I'd like you guys just to highlight one or two or two or three that you think, yeah, I would like to be able to comment on that in an exam. And you're going to then have to think of the advantages, the benefits of doing that. Okay, so Asda buying Netto, which are a smaller chain of convenience stores, so not the big store, the smaller ones. Tata buying Jaguar, a Land Rover. Okay, Volkswagen buying Porsche. Which ones would you like to talk about? But try and come up with some more up-to-date examples as well. The exam board really want to see contextualized, real-world, up-to-date examples. So just in terms of the obvious benefits here, you join two firms at the same stage of production, so two breweries, for example, you exploit those internal economies of scale. We'll come on to rationalization in a minute, but cost savings, maybe you're going to be able to sell that wider range of products. You reduce competition by removing one of your key rivals, which gives you more market share, more pricing power. Okay, and so this is potentially real advantages, as well as buying well-known brands. Okay, far more cheaply than you could buying a brand. For example, Kraft bought out Cadbury. Could they have competed? Could they have grown as fast? Could they have stolen lots of market share from Cadbury? Not without significant expenditure in a long period of time. Okay, so in terms of looking at forward integration, Hotel Chocolat here, just think about what they've got here, this vertically integrated business. They've got cocoa plantations in St. Lucia. They then have manufacturing plants in Cambridgeshire, and they also own many retail units across Britain. Okay, so they've sourced their cocoa, they manufacture it, and they've got retail units to sell it at. Okay, so vertical integration. So again, similarly, have a couple of up-to-date examples, highlight one or two of the ones on page 53. So I'll just give you a few seconds to have a little look at that and ones that you want to talk about potentially in an exam, but try and come up with more up-to-date examples again. And then in terms of the advantages, the control of the supply chain. So that example we just looked at in terms of sort of the quality of the cocoa. So that would be good. It also reduces your unit costs. It gives you access to key raw materials at the expense of other businesses, and you can control your retail distribution where you sell. Okay, so you can see some key advantages coming through from being able to vertically integrate your business. I've mentioned conglomerate integration already. The other one to mention is joint ventures, and this occurs where businesses join together. Now, you've got information on this on page 52, 3/4 of the way down the page, and basically this is when it's in the common interest of both parties, two firms, to come together on a business project, maybe to share fixed costs of research. This is a good one. I'd like you guys to write this one in. So in terms of Sony Ericsson, try and think of some of those benefits. Okay, I'll pause the video so you can write down 2 or 3 of these points. Okay, so certainly Sony wanted the access to phones. Ericsson, the benefits were obviously in the quality of sound and so on. I'll talk about that now. Having done that, again, have a look and write down 1 or 2 other examples of joint ventures and think about the benefits to each company of doing so. This is a past paper question. I'll just press pause and run through this with you, but you can see potential relatively easy questions. If you've done your revision, you're absolutely clear on what key terms mean, and you can apply your understanding to this. Okay, so we'll run through this together. What are the key reasons, strategic reasons for takeovers and mergers? Well, you can undertake that rapid technological change. You need that greater scale, benefit from economies of scale to remain competitive. Certainly access to wider distribution networks is important, and the reasons will be contextualized depending on the business. Okay, this is a really important section. This is on page 54, and I would like you guys to make a note, important, highlight it in some way. So the benefits of growing externally, well, key ones. We've mentioned economies of scale. That's important. And again, be able to give real world examples associated with a particular type of business. In terms of rationalization, I mentioned the term before, but basically when you bring two businesses together, there will be some workers or departments that you don't need two of. You might not need two accounting departments. You might not need two HR departments. Okay, if I press pause, can you think of any other examples of departments or workers that may not be needed? Number three, again, by growing quickly, you're going to get that greater market share and market power, maybe to source raw materials or purchase things more cheaply. You're going to acquire new brands and assets. I mentioned Kraft and Cadbury's, and acquiring brands like Dairy Milk, really importantly. When BMW bought Rover, it didn't want Rover. Rover wasn't the greatest company yet. Some parts of it were really valuable. In your notes it mentions the likes of Range Rover and Mini. That's what they really wanted. Obviously, there's an opportunity to improve inefficient firms, so you're going to be able to get them more cheaply if they're inefficient. You can certainly start selling different products, enter new markets. You can diversify through vertical integration, maybe that control over your linkages, that chocolate company having retail outlets to sell its chocolate in, and also cocoa plants to source its cocoa to ensure the quality of its chocolate is good. Taking away, eliminating rivals can be important in terms of reducing competition. Microsoft have done that many times. Any good young IT company, they will just buy it out. Okay, so they've got access to those technologies, access to those platforms. And importantly, and I want you to highlight this at the bottom, it's at the bottom, but it's as important, if not more important. It's a summary of everything there. Firms will be able to grow more quickly, and well-judged integration will result in cheaper growth than could be achieved internally. Really important to understand. Okay, examples of motives. Again, make sure that you've got these for the exam. So external growth, get 2 or 3 of these. Make sure that you can mention these within an exam and come up with those contextualized examples. So for example, British Airways and Iberia at the bottom, to consolidate in the market to gain economies of scale. We'll be able to give contextualized examples of that. So in terms of purchasing fleets of aeroplanes, you're going to be able to do it more cheaply. When buying fuel, again, as a bigger company, you'll be able to buy more cheaply. And that, in this instance, when the airline industry was going through tough times, what does that mean? Well, that means it's different to being able to offer cheaper prices and get higher profit margins. In this instance, it was just to survive, really importantly. Okay, what you guys are going to do now is you're going to have a look at the little case study on page 55. Big head in there, Sainsbury's and Asda in talks about a shock 10 billion grocery merger, and you guys have to go through the proposed benefits and drawbacks of the merger. Okay, so I'm going to give you 7-8 minutes for this. Try and add as much contextualization into your answer as possible. Try and make sure you're using that effective wider reading technique. Keep stressing it, it must be for a reason. Okay, I'll press pause now and give you 10 minutes to have a go at this. Okay, thank you.